know I'm about some conspiracy theories, right? Of course you do, because I got sent this tweet like 300 times. It's nothing but this tweet in my DMs and in my Instagram DMs, Twitter, everywhere, telling me that I have to listen to the Death of Slim Shady in reverse. And I'm here to tell you that I did just that. I even created my own playlist right here so I could literally listen to it from back to front, not front to back. And I've discovered some things. So let's talk about them. Right after I tell you about my awesome homies at Manscaped that just dropped a brand new product, the White Hot Lawnmower 5.0. This thing is freaking sick. It's white and gold. White gold is on the album, so you should buy this. So now I've got the all blacked out version and I've got the white hot version. This thing is sexy, just like my package is going to be. But no, seriously, they just dropped this today. Use my code Crypt20, get 20% off and free worldwide shipping on this bad boy or anything else on the website. And I'm telling you, grab it quick because I know this thing will sell out. And if you buy one of these with my code Crypt20, I will follow you back on Instagram, but you get it for 20% off and free shipping. It's a no-brainer, bro. Oh my god! This is one of the best products I've ever launched. This is absolutely replacing my old one. But okay, let's dive into this conspiracy here. So obviously, if you listen to the Death of Slim Shady forwards, it's the story of Eminem constantly battling his old self. We're gonna call current day Eminem Marshall, and we'll call old Eminem Shady. So the bulk of the album is Shady coming back, trying to get Marshall canceled, trying to rap like he used to, and there's a lot of back and forth throughout the whole thing, a lot of controversy happening, and then about 3/4 of the way throughout the album, we get Guilty Conscience 2, where Marshall kills Slim Shady. Talk about that in a little bit, because there's a lot of dream sequences throughout this album too. But the bulk idea is that Slim Shady has been killed at this point in the album, and you don't hear him for the rest of the album, actually. So it does line up. And I'm not gonna lie, when I got sent this tweet and like all these people were telling me about the reverse theory, my immediate thought was like, every story, if you put it in reverse, is going to be the opposite of what the story is. So people would tell me that it's Slim Shady who actually kills Marshall, not the other way around. So let's go over the tweet real quick, and then I'll go over my own discoveries and tell me what you guys think about it, okay? So in this version of the album, we start off with Somebody Save Me, and it foreshadows Marshall's death. The whole song is pretty much what if Eminem never stopped taking drugs. It goes into the Guess Who's Back skit with King Kniff, and this is foreshadowing the return of Slim Shady. Then it goes on over to Toby, where some of the lines talk about sometimes shit just doesn't pan out, and Shady's shadow shows up in this song. They move on over to Bad One and quote some more of the lyrics where it says, "One minute you're here, the next you're gone. It seems like Marshall's job is done. He's pulled off his stunt," kind of talking about this whole magician scheme for my last trick. Moves down to the song Temporary, where it is his song to Haley after he dies. Then it goes down to Head Honcho. One of the lyrics says, "The writing is on the wall." Then says Ezekiel, the story of Ezekiel, and remembrance on Creation Day in the Bible. Even though he was talking about Ezekiel Easy Meal, because that's Easy Meal's real name is Ezekiel. They're saying that Marshall's Creation Day would be Slim Shady. And the very last line of this song is, "You'll be staying till I die, though." Cool double entendre there. By the way, I'll talk about it when I get to that breakdown video. Then it goes to Guilty Conscience 2, which is such an important part of this album, especially if you believe this theory or the other theory that it should be front to back. This is the pivotal swinging point on either version of the album. But in this song, obviously they're going back and forth, and Marshall is talking to Slim Shady about, "Why are you doing all this stuff? You shouldn't be doing this. I'm not like that anymore." But it ends with the phone call of Paul and Eminem waking up from this dream saying that he was doing all this fucked up shit, and the old him came back trying to take him over and get him canceled. And they're saying that Paul hanging up on him shows him that it wasn't actually a dream. Goes to the breaking news skit where Slim Shady is showing Marshall all the shit that he's just done in the world, all the news reports about all the topics that are being talked about on this album. Goes to Houdini, where it starts with Paul calling Eminem saying, "I heard the album, good luck." And they're saying this is pretty much Paul calling Eminem back. It's like, "Yo, I thought you were fucking with me on the phone call, but you're not. Good luck with all this shit." We move down to Road Rage, where Slim dyes Marshall's hair blonde. Moves into Fuel, where one of the lines says, "The Reaper's coming to Heathen, and I need it from me." Goes to Antichrist, where there's the Kurt Cobain barn about blowing his brains away and going out with a bang, but it's being said in the Marshall voice, not the Slim Shady voice. Then goes to Lucifer, where there's a lot of back and forth between Marshall and Slim Shady. Then goes to the All You Got skit, where Slim is telling Marshall that he's not shit without him, that he created all this, he would never have any of this without Slim Shady. They're saying at this point that Slim has completely taken over. Moves on to the song Evil, where we have the opening lines where he says he woke up with an attitude today, he's not in the mood to play, stuck in his ruthless ways, and that he refuses to change, and that he just chooses to stay evil. Then it goes to the Brand New Dance song, where it's just Slim Shady saying that he's so evil, he's gonna show it by making this whole song shitting on Christopher Reeves. Goes into the Trouble skit, where Slim Shady has drugged Marshall, and ends it by saying, "Thought you were dreaming, huh?" And then that's where the full flip happens, where we go into Habits. You can actually hear Marshall in the beginning of it, he's tied up and gagged. Slim Shady tells him to split this Ativan pill, and then it finally ends with Renaissance, where Slim is burying Marshall and spits on his grave, not the other way around. And the whole song is nothing but Slim Shady, his first song without Marshall Mathers. So that is the Twitter conspiracy. I thought there was a lot of good points in this, but I did see some plot holes, and I decided let me go back and listen to it and kind of dig for other things and see exactly what's going on here and see if it actually would make sense that way. Because for me, I love this album, and I kind of feel like it should have stopped after Guilty Conscience 2. The rest of it just kind of felt a little weird to me. So let me tell you guys about my theory going through the track list now. So now let me tell you about what I found when I listened to the album in reverse. So it starts off with Somebody Save Me, the song with Jelly Roll, the song that I cried like a baby to in my reaction. The whole thing is from the point of view of Eminem. If he never had stopped taking the drugs, he would have died. He wouldn't have got to walk his daughters down the aisle. And he's quite literally dead at the end of this song because he's in his casket and he feels the tears fall down on his cheek from other people. So for me, this is either two possibilities if we're going to keep up with this theory. One, it's not a part of the theory at all and it's not canon. It's just kind of a theoretical song. Or two, this is part of the dream sequence. Like we start the album and he's already in this weird nightmare. Because there is a lot of dream sequences in this album and it can get very confusing if you don't keep up with it. So we'll try to build off of either one of those. And it also does make sense because the core part of the song in Jelly Roll's chorus where it says, somebody save me from myself, he's trying to save himself from Slim Shady, his other version. So then it goes into the Guess Who's Back skit, which does make sense for the theory because it's like kind of starting the album now. It's like, guess who's back? Here's Slim Shady. It's actually King Kniff, but it's a Slim Shady skit. So it's like letting you know that Slim Shady is there. And if we go with this theory of Somebody Save Me being a part of this reverse album, you can kind of see this as Slim Shady sees that Marshall is dead and he's like, okay, now it's my time to kind of come back. Marshall can't stop me now. So he starts off with King Kniff to kind of test the waters to see if it's okay. But what I found interesting is that this ends with footsteps walking away, and the next song, Toby, starts with footsteps walking in. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a little bit of a coincidence right there. I always felt like Toby kind of wasn't really a part of the album anyway, but now it's like, okay, I can kind of see some stuff here. Marshall only rapping on this. There's no Slim Shady in this, but there is kind of some hints of Slim Shady topics in this because he's dissing Jay-Z and Melly Mel in this. I mean, obviously, like current day Marshall disses people too, but that was like a very big thing that Slim Shady would do, was just diss whoever the hell he wanted to. But more specifically, Marshall is talking about the top 50 best rappers list and him being number 5 on that list and saying that he's already ripped somebody that's above him on that list, which we all deduced was Jay-Z, which was really out of the blue until you realize that Renegade was 20-something years old during the Slim Shady era. So then I view it as like, okay, this is kind of Slim Shady putting this idea into Marshall's brain. This random 20, 25-year-old song is going to get tossed into the brain now. And then like the tweet says, there is a line in there talking about Shady's shadow showing up. Then we move down to Bad One again, which is just Marshall only once again. This is Marshall just kind of flexing the whole time, talking about his temper being a bad temper and that he could lose it at any moment. But in this song, Marshall even has a line where he says like he is still alive. And even has another line saying like, who died and made you God to tell me like what I could do. So that all kind of ties in a little bit there. And then again, the tweet points out some of the lyrics where it says 1 minute you're here, the next you're gone. It seems like Marshall's job is done. He's pulled off his stunt. Then we go to Temporary, which is obviously the song made for Haley for when Eminem dies. Doesn't know when that moment's going to be, but he made this song for his daughter for when he dies. She's got something to go back and listen to. And that can definitely be viewed as major foreshadowing. This leads over into Head Honcho with Easy Mill. And there is that line on there talking about the writing on the wall is there right before he talks about Easy Mill and Ezekiel. That's what I want to focus more on instead of Ezekiel, the story of Creation Day. I feel like that part is a little bit of a stretch, but there is very vividly a line where he talks about the blonde-haired and blue-eyed and that America was afraid of it, but the writing is on the wall. He is literally saying like the return of Slim Shady is inevitable. The blonde-haired and blue-eyed guy is going to return. The imminent doom is unstoppable. Writing is on the wall. And then at the end of the song, he like disses MGK again and like throwing some more disses around, which is crazy because if you listen to the song in correct order, the song before this, Eminem talks about how he's done dissing MGK. Literally says it in the song before it. So I thought that was kind of weird. But now it makes more sense because in this version, the song before it, he is dissing MGK, and in the next song, he says, I'm done dissing MGK. And obviously the next song is Guilty Conscience 2, another pivotal swinging point. Marshall is battling with Slim Shady right here. They're trying to gain ropes over who is who and who gets control here. And this is the first point that we actually hear Slim Shady's voice throughout the entire album. Up to this point, you can kind of get some hints that Slim Shady is in Marshall's brain throughout this album. You don't hear his voice, but you kind of hear some topics that are influenced by Slim Shady. Now his voice has come to fruition, and he's saying some super jacked up stuff. But at the end of this song, you hear the alarm clock and Eminem scream and wake up, and When I'm Gone is playing in the background, and it's specifically the part saying Shady, Rockabye Baby. So at this point, it's like Eminem has been asleep this entire time, and now he's awoken from this nightmare that he's had. He calls Paul to tell him about this nightmare that he's had and all this stuff, and it still makes sense this way because in Guilty Conscience 2, he is talking about all this crazy stuff that is trying to get him canceled. Then obviously Paul says, fuck you, and hangs up. This bleeds on over to the breaking news skit where it starts with Shady laughing. And he could be laughing at Marshall because Paul's not taking him seriously and he hung up on him. Or he's laughing because Marshall thinks that it was a dream, but it's actually not. And in this news skit, again, it's talking about all the messed up things that were talked about on this album, but they were all talked about in Guilty Conscience 2. Then that goes into Houdini, where it starts with a phone call from Paul. And Paul says, I listened to the actual album and good fucking luck. It's Paul realizing that Marshall wasn't playing with him. Like this actually happened and he heard all the stuff that was being talked about and he's like, I'm out. Good luck. And then Slim Shady starts rapping, Guess Who's Back? Literally taking it back to the origins of Without Me on this album. Shady is fully unleashed on this album, talks about back in the days of old me. This whole song is kind of all in Marshall's voice, except maybe the Guess Who's Back part in the beginning. It's kind of a mixture. But topic-wise, this entire song is absolutely 100% Slim Shady style. And if you remember the music video, it ends with a car crash, and that kind of makes sense going into the next song, which is Road Rage, and the song after that is Fuel, so those 3 songs kind of tie together. That's kind of like a little backstory. But Houdini, even in the music video, is literally the morphing of the 2, and it's kind of the morphing of the 2 in the album right now too. So it moves over into Road Rage, where Marshall is rapping and saying that he's confused in the world today because of all this PC stuff that's going on, kind of mixing up his own ideas of his early Slim Shady days. We hear a little bit of Slim Shady's actual voice in this, so he's kind of come back to the forefront like he was in Guilty Conscience. There's some back and forth in this, but there's actually like a cool seamless transition moment in the beginning of the song where, like, if you're not paying attention, you don't even notice the slide from Marshall to Slim Shady's voice. It was really cool. That's when you really start to see the fusion happen. And even in the last verse, you hear Slim come back and dye Marshall's hair blonde, and Marshall and Slim's voices go back and forth, and you can really start to hear the influence on Marshall's raps because they're starting to sound like Slim Shady's raps. That goes over into Fuel. Fuel is just a dope fucking song anyway, but the flows on this reminded me of very vintage Eminem, very vintage Slim Shady. There wasn't that choppiness that Marshall likes to do now. And he's calling out P. Diddy in this one. More disses. Some more very touchy subject stuff. It's Slim Shady through Marshall's mouthpiece. And then now is the point where I feel like all hell is breaking loose and like the fusion is really coming together and happen. Because in Antichrist, they're obviously going back and forth. The different voices are rapping the whole time back and forth. They're both rapping about the same topics, not giving a fuck, building off each other, dissing people, being controversial. There's even a point where Shady's voice calls himself Marshall. You ever wonder why Marsh is the hardest spitter? Because I, such and such. Marshall even calls himself Shady in this song. So the Slim voice calls himself Marshall, and the Marshall voice calls himself Slim in this song. They're having fun together, and in the very middle of the song, we hear that alarm clock go off. It's the first alarm clock that's happened since Guilty Conscience 2. And after that, Marshall says that Shady is going Freddy on him, and Freddy Krueger would kill people in their nightmares. And when he killed them in their nightmares, they died in real life. But Marshall even says that he knows Slim Shady is the reason that he's got all this success. Despite all these bad things that have been done, he knows that Slim is the reason for all the money. And even the very end of the song, Marshall says that he will spit whatever he needs to do to get himself canceled in the name of Marshall. He's the Antichrist. So we're really getting deep. That bleeds over into Lucifer, and it starts with Shady saying, "It feels so good to be back." But you can actually hear Shady and Marshall kind of bicker back and forth at the beginning about who's gonna start the song. And Marshall says, "I got it." And then starts the cancellation culture topics. And they build off each other again in this. Marshall is really leaning into all these controversial topics. The fusion is growing stronger and stronger of them being the same person, which makes even more sense because the song before this was Antichrist, and the only thing more evil and stronger than the Antichrist is Lucifer, the devil himself. So the fusion is getting stronger based off the song titles and based off the song topics. And again, in the last verse of this song, Shady is gassing up Marshall, saying that he's getting more perverse every single time that he drops a verse now. And being perverse means like you are literally trying to say stuff that causes controversy, and that is unacceptable. So he's almost looking back and he's like, "Yep, I'm doing it." Then that goes into the All You Got skit, and the story just gets stronger here because it starts off with Marshall backing up saying, like, "Why are you doing this?" And you can hear it in his voice. It's almost like they just had this 3-song run of banger songs. He's having fun rapping back and forth. They're merging together, and you know that Marshall's having fun, but you can hear it that he kind of senses something is off. So he backs up and is like, "Wait, why are you doing this?" And you gotta admit, that last 3-song run with Fuel, Antichrist, and Lucifer is a crazy run. Those songs are bangers. But this is Slim Shady kind of confirming what was talked about in Antichrist. "I'm the reason you have all this. That's why I'm bringing it back out. That's why I'm back. That's why I'm bringing you out with me. You've tried to kill me all these times. It'll never happen. I'm better than you. Be like me." Then it goes into Evil. Another crazy run, bro. Opening line says, "Woke up with an attitude today." Kind of plays on all of the alarm clocks that we've heard throughout the album so far. And I go back to the tweet right here where he says he was stuck in his ruthless ways. He refuses to change. Nothing to lose or gain. And then Slim Shady's voice says, "Guess I just choose to stay." Then it goes to Marshall saying "evil" and finishing out the chorus. So they're rapping back and forth again right here. They're having fun. They're both doing their crazy technical styles. There is at one point where Marshall yells at Slim to stop because he's getting too controversial when he moves to talk about the Oxford shooting. And I think Slim kind of hears this and he's like, okay, he's not fully turned over yet. He's not fully convinced that he needs to be part of me. And so to really push the envelope, he makes the next song Brand New Dance, which is quite literally a Slim Shady song from 2004. It's an entire disc made on Christopher Reeves that was pulled off the album because Christopher Reeves died right before the album came out. But if you listen, Marshall's voice is actually on this song for a couple lines too. There's a part where he says, "Dance until you're wheelchair bound. Here we go. Horseback, little do-si-do." And then he even sings the little bridge where he talks about giving Chris his anthem and giving him chrysanthemum flowers. And this song ends with the alarm clock and Marshall screaming. And at this point, Slim Shady is fed up of trying to convince Marshall the easy way to join him and let him morph together. And so it goes into trouble. It starts off with Shady making Marshall drink something in the beginning. Could be alcohol, could be poison. Definitely something to hinder him. And then Shady just goes completely off the edge, dissing all these people, saying the most ridiculous stuff. And even says, "Thought you were dreaming, huh?" Playing off of the alarm clock that just ended the previous song 20 seconds before he said this. So it's really starting to make sense when you listen to it in reverse right now. Finishes the short song by saying, "When are you going to realize we need each other?" other. And then it goes into Habits, where the song literally starts by Slim Shady saying, "I've been waiting a long time for this." And you can hear Marshall gagging in the background. Could be choking on the vomit, could be bound with some kind of rope, duct tape over his mouth. He's tied up. Shady's taking control right here. He then force feeds Marshall a pill, breaking his sobriety, trying to kill him completely. You hear Marshall start to rap, and he's kind of drugged and rapping all this stuff that Slim Shady would rap. And there's even a small interjectory line where you hear it in Slim Shady's voice where he says, "This shit is like opioid abuse, isn't it?" And it's quite literally opioid abuse that's causing Marshall to rap all this stuff that he's doing on this song. And the whole song is about Shady being in his veins. So this pill that he made him take, this poison, this alcohol, this drink that he made him drink is all Slim Shady. It's been building up this entire Reverse album where Shady has been trying to get Marshall to join him, to let him morph the easy way. And now he realizes like he's just got to drug him and make it happen on his own. There's more back and forth rapping in this. There's more offensive stuff. And then it ends with the very classic Shady, "Haha, I'm just playing." And in this case, it's "Little people, you know I love you." But that has been said throughout his entire Slim Shady career. "I'm just playing blah, blah, blah. You know I love you." And that's the last we hear of Marshall, because in Renaissance, it is full on nothing but Slim Shady. And Marshall is dead. And like the tweet says, Slim has buried Marshall and spit on his grave. And it's even crazier because this Eminem tweet says, "Public service announcement, the Death of Slim Shady is a conceptual album. Therefore, if you listen to the songs out of order, they might not make sense." But it does not specify which order. So there you have it. The Reverse album, The Death of Slim Shady, totally makes sense. This was not the video that I planned on doing today. I've been recording for an hour and a half trying to explain this theory. No idea how long the actual video is going to be. But I've seen a lot of people saying that they are preparing for a side B to happen. And it'd be nothing but Slim Shady, which I would nerd out over. I think that would be so freaking cool. Definitely should capitalize on this situation and do that, because there's other promotional material out there that kind of leaves some questions. There's the Shady is missing posters that have been posted everywhere. There's the phone number that you can call that is a Steve Bartman skit. There's just a lot of other things kind of floating around out there. Makes you question some things, makes you think a little bit. So I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you prefer the album in reverse order, or do you prefer it in the original order? I guess I could link the Spotify playlist that I made so you can listen to the album in reverse order and kind of see, but it definitely made way more sense than I thought it would. But that's it for this one. Love you guys. Thank you for sticking around for this video. There won't be a breakdown today. I have to leave right after I get done editing this video, but I promise you tomorrow I will drop 2 videos for you, breaking down the Habits, and then I guess Trouble and Brand New Dance. I'll kind of tie them in together too. Brand New Dance is wild. But yeah, the Death of Slim Shady content continues. That's it for this one. Love you guys. See you in the next video. And this is my song, If My Heart Had Wings, if you want to check out what my music sounds like. Peace out.
Seems like every now and then I try to pick myself up from these lows. How can I expect to do that? I don't even feel like picking up my phone. I'm stuck somewhere between one and someone there all the time. But sometimes I don't have enough energy to even stay on the line. Cause I've been down and out, I've been down this road, and I know